Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Media Champions. I'm your host, Susan St.Denis, and today we're going to be talking to Kyle Buzzard from Anura Solutions. Kyle, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, Susan. Thank you so much for having me.
I am glad to hear it, and I'm excited to talk to you about, a subject that marketers aren't as well versed on as they should be. So our audience today will be very interested to hear about this. You work with ad fraud. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that and what Anura Solutions does to help companies fight ad fraud?
Sure, absolutely. So ad fraud in 2019, which is last year I have data for, was a $43 billion challenge for marketers, and it hits every channel. So if you're doing online marketing, you're impacted by fraud, right? So what Anura does, plain and simple, is we tell you whether each visitor to your web page, your landing site, whatever your digital asset, we tell you whether they're real or not. We do that with extreme accuracy. So basically, anytime anyone, or kind of more importantly, anything like a bot, hits your website, you're going to know instantly whether they're a real user and that they'll be able to convert for you. And our clients have that confidence knowing that fraud isn't impacting the marketing data. And I know data is really important to the folks that watch your videos. So having that clean data is really what Anura is all about.
Absolutely. So I'm actually curious, in your time working within this field, just how much can ad fraud damage a company? What is the extent of damage that you've seen?
So our CEO will tell stories where ad fraud has taken small to medium companies completely out. In general, what we see, about 25% of your budget is impacted by fraud. So it can have a huge impact. And not only, when we're talking about, marketing, 100 years ago plus, John Wanamaker said, I know half of the money I spend on advertising is wasted. I just don't know which half. Well, so now imagine you're in digital marketing and you think a campaign is working correctly and you're A/B testing, you're doing everything right, and fraud hits one of the campaigns. And so now that campaign looks like it's doing fantastic. And so you cut off this campaign that actually should be the one that continues, and you start focusing on just fraud. And so then that impact can spiral and grow out of control. And like I said, we've seen smaller companies just not be able to withstand a larger fraud hit.
So this is coming from someone who also is not super familiar with ad fraud, and I know I should be. So forgive me for this question, but I'm curious. I know when I think of fraud online, I'm thinking of the, Somalian prince emailing me saying, please send me $10,000 and I'll give you my kingdom. Within ad fraud, how do people
Mhm.
fall for that? What are the telltale signs people should look out for so they don't make that first mistake that results in all of this damage happening?
Yep. So digital marketers in general are pretty savvy. So you have an idea of what your conversion rates should be. You have an idea of what success looks like in your campaign, whether it's a conversion rate or some other success metric. When that starts to go bad, one of the reasons could be fraud. And so that's where you have to be cognizant of what's going on, in the industry. And fraud has gotten really complex. So one of the things that we do, we consider best in the world, is the very sophisticated types of fraud. So you have kind of the general bots, and everybody's now familiar with bots, right? But then you have more sophisticated fraud. So that's a higher end bot that mimics human behavior. Human fraud farms, which for about $9 an hour, you can hire a fraudster. And then you have malware, which basically will infect a device. And while it's in sleep mode or off, it will cause fraud to be committed kind of in Kyle's name. So if my cell phone gets infected, to a lot of users, it'll look like, Kyle from Middletown, Delaware, is committing the fraud, when in actuality it's malware. So there's a lot of complexity impacting, our digital marketing space. So it's more than just the Somali prince.
There's a lot of complex things going on there. And I know digital marketing has been changing, growing rapidly over the past few years, especially during COVID. And I'm sure that
Mhm.
that has carried over into the world of ad fraud. So, in your experience, how quickly have you been seeing fraudsters adapt? Uh, do you think that they are able to adapt quickly to the defenses people put up, or what are you noticing?
So it's really interesting. If you look about 4 years back, there was a large spike in the level of ad fraud, and what happened at that point, I can get into this. So ad fraud, as far as digital fraud goes, is extremely lucrative and very hard to get caught at. And so, prior to 4 years ago, people were committing ad fraud, but they were mostly just people. But then organized crime started to get into the picture and say, "Hey, we do digital fraud anyway. Looks like this is a pretty good place to be." And so they started to get into ad fraud. And you saw ad fraud jump from about 8% impact to about 25% impact. So how quickly do they adapt? They're quite honestly a half step ahead of even the best of us like Anura, because they have resources that you would not expect. They're not someone in a basement trying to get some click money. They're using that fraud money to really power entire criminal enterprises. It's really challenging.
No, I would imagine, and I think it's important that we emphasize just how good they are at what they do. I don't.
Mhm.
I think painting the image of it just being some weird dude in a basement is faulty because it allows people to judge just how dangerous this is and will prevent
Right.
them from getting help from companies like you guys. So, why don't you
Right.
tell everybody watching how they can get in contact with you and work with you in order to make sure that they either prevent these things from happening, or if they are in a situation, they can get your help in order to rectify the situation?
Absolutely. So the website is www.anura.io. You can reach me, Kyle at anura.io directly. We're on LinkedIn and all those other places. Phone number is 888-337-0641. And again, you can ask for me. I'm happy to help. And, you know, we are we're very interested in helping not only our clients but the community in general. We're a tag certified vendor. One of the things that the tag community trustworthy accountability group, it's the premier digital ad fraud membership organization out there. So one of the things that we do within tag is we work with other players in the space to identify those attacks as quickly as possible. And we try, without sharing what our secret sauce is or their secret sauce, we try to, as a community, combat it. So that's like I said, that's how you get in touch with us. As far as what we can do after the fact, there's not that much, but we can be installed really quickly. We have a very slim integration, and we can get up and running and protect people's campaigns within minutes, actually.
Absolutely. Well, I hope everybody watching understands the importance of them, making sure that they're prepared for these kinds of attacks. It's better to be over prepared than under, and you don't want to be caught off guard
Right.
when this stuff happens. So, Anura Solutions is the place to go if you need any help with strengthening your systems to prevent these ad fraud attacks. So, Kyle, I appreciate you coming on and informing everybody today.
Great, Susan. Again, thank you so much for having us, and we're always excited to talk to your audience.
Absolutely. And to everybody watching at home, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Media Champions. I'm your host, Susan St.Denis. And if you'd like to learn more about Kyle and Anura Solutions, you can check them out at BluHorn.com. We look forward to seeing you next time on BluHorn TV.